Welcome to the land of no easy answers. Our world, the more connected than ever, seems to have forgotten how to connect. Everywhere you look, the disconnect is obvious, from nature to the people around us, and even within ourselves. This is Alex Knight, and thank you for joining us as we attempt to unravel the mysteries of the mind and your universe. Now, let's meet our panel. Over in one corner is Kristin Rumohr. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
And in the other corner, Aaron Stewart.
Scooby-Doo-Bop-Bop-Wow.
It's not a homeless man over there, is it?
Where? Who? What? Well, it does kind of tie into the topic, so I figured I would do my full. You know, it's really hot in here today, so the hair is all just So I'm just doing my full on. Yeah.
Just au naturel.
Exactly.
And this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're hopefully going to walk out of here with some pro tips on how to keep things in check, how to keep things in balance. And Kristin, our regular expert on the mind and people. I know that's high praise and a high bar to live up to, Kristin, but we were hoping as somebody that has patience that you could speak to this and give us some tips on how to keep our brain healthy.
Hey, what are you saying? I have no patience?
Well, Kristin actually has patience, but she also sees patients as a clinical holistic counselor.
Nice one. That was a good one.
All the patients over here.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you do have us. Yeah.
You do have to have a lot of patience to do that job. So I commend you very much for doing that. Obviously, to do that kind of difficult job, you really have to enjoy. I think you have to be passionate about wanting to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And this job, for that matter. And again, kudos to you for being here every week and just,
and helping us.
Everybody should go and check out our Patreon, because, that would be awesome, to get some money off of this. But we're basically doing this for free just because we enjoy trying to tease this apart and try to figure out why our minds do this to us. Hey, and so we really appreciate you being here as the, actual expert on this to break down these parts and tell us where we can kind of fix them, hopefully.
Yeah, it's all. Mm-hmm. This is all very much about self-exploration. I mean, as much as we, as much as I love coming on here a couple times a week and learning new things, it's also, I find, at least for me, this is a bit of self-exploration and examining my own behavior and my own biases and why do I think a certain way. So it's I definitely feel like my mind is expanding, and just an infinitesimal part every single week, but it is growing. So I do feel better every single week when we have these discussions. So Kristin, what can people do other than trying to change their habits? There's always a lot of information, a lot of science on doing exercise, on supplement. That's one thing I always talk about is vitamin D supplementation, and there's lots of research on the benefits of vitamin D and how awfully deficient a lot of us are, because we just, as humans evolved and, we have office jobs and we spend so much time indoors, we're not exposed to the sun, and that has a lot of negative impact on us. But what are some of the things that we can do to make time for ourselves so that we actually take care of ourselves?
I think it's important to speak a bit before we get into it, just the importance of Mental Health Awareness Month in general, right? Absolutely. Because we kind of, get stuck on the idea, or a lot of people do anyway, that it's just the overt displays of mental illness that we need to focus on, which we absolutely do. And it's a month to kind of remind ourselves to have compassion for others, to have empathy, but also to raise awareness that everybody does have these struggles, right? Yeah. We all have these internal issues. Our brains are working against us some of the time. They're telling us things that we don't want to hear. So it is very important that we kind of back up, take a, step, look at it from a bigger perspective, and really just give ourselves a bit of a break. You know, like as you were saying, Alex, what we try to do here, we try to break things down. It's okay to have these certain thoughts, right? Yeah. And let's start from a place of that first off, that we're all just human. We're all built a little bit differently, right? And it's important to take care of this machine, absolutely. And to do that, the first and foremost thing is to have compassion for it, right? Which is why this month is very, very important. And we all need a bit of a reminder. We're our own worst enemies most of the time, right?
Well, we like to project that other people's mental health problems are not our own. And in a lot of cases, that's just not really and we like to deny the truth of what's actually going on inside our own heads and go, oh, at least we're not them. When in reality, we are. And we all are exactly the same. And we all have these biases, and the same things could lead you to this path of exactly where they are, but for a couple of tweaks inside your brain. And I guess, like you said, with the compassion, that's the main thing, is just to remember that for a slight tweak of our DNA or our whatever, we could be exactly at these places where we try to look down on these other people. Mm-hmm. So I think it's inherent on us to actually, just like you said, reflect on why we do that. What makes us feel like we're superior and that our mental health is better than, versus the fact that we can learn from that experience and grow ourselves.
Absolutely. Am I actually reminded, because I've worked a lot in a sort of a previous life when I worked with a software company that was developing programs specifically for students that are in various different medical fields to, like, as they progress through their training, to sort of track what they're doing. And one of the things that they always do is something actually called reflection, where people are actually writing down notes about, so they're actually reflecting on the experiences that they had. And I think that's something, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that I think we all need to do more on a daily basis. In fact, probably a lot of us don't, right? We're so embroiled in the daily, just like getting through and making money and putting food on the table, and let's just get through the day. I gotta do the school run. I gotta make sure my kids are taken care of. I gotta, and I gotta give attention. I gotta make sure that my relationship is healthy and that I'm giving time to people that I care about. And it's so easy to just not reflect on yourself, and you need to, I think, find a way to carve out a portion of the day so you can actually think about this stuff. Because I mean, how the hell are we expected to get better, right? If we just, if you're just constantly, your mind is being diverted in all these different areas, right?
Mm-hmm. And so many things that can numb it as well, right?
Yes,
as we talk about this almost every episode, right? Just the constant bombardment that you don't need to really be alone with your thoughts anymore. Right? We live in this world that there's always something to distract you, right? We're not sitting by ourselves in the dark with nothing but our own company.
In fact, it's hard to not be distracted. And you have to seek out those places of not being distracted and carve those out for yourself, because they just don't really exist anymore, right? I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I find it increasingly difficult now with all the things that I do, with having a full-time job, doing this podcast, all the work that is involved with that, all the, my attention is so much on watching movies and TV shows now, and I spend so much time in video games too. And I'm finding lately I feel like I need to start taking control a little bit more and reducing the amount of hours that I'm playing video games, that I'm watching TV shows, because I don't like it that I don't have time to do other things. Like, I want more time to read a book. I would like to start something new, but my attention keeps going back to just sitting in front of a TV, and I don't like that. So I know I need to make some changes there, because I want a bit more of a balance. Last year, I was actually way better. Last year, I made a commitment to read more often, and I read 12 books. And for me, that's a lot. I know, I have friends that read 25, 30 books easily a year, but for me, 12 in a year is a lot. And so I want to get back to that. So I'm going to start making some changes. I'm going to start reducing the amount of time that I watch TV, because it's always going to be there. That's the thing. It's always going to be there. But I have so many opportunities to expand my mind, even if it's just reading fiction. That's one of the things that I'll never forget, somebody always told me. They said one of the best things you can do to improve your vocabulary and your comprehension of things is to just read more, just absorb more, read anything. Because, and you know, when I read a book, if I encounter a word that I've never heard of before that I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like not knowing that.
Yeah.
So the only way to improve my vocabulary is to actually sit there with a dictionary and look it up. And that's, and the more I do that, I find that even helps my ability as a writer to, it's not just the repetition of writing more, but once I actually started reading more and reading a variety of different works, I found that actually helped my writing. That helped kickstart my own creativity. So I really do encourage it for people. Like, just anybody can make a change. You have the power to do that. You just have to be willing to actually make that change. And the fact is, and I'm guilty of it, is that oftentimes we do not, because we choose. Like, anytime I had a boss that I really looked up to once who gave me great advice. Anytime I would tell him, oh, I didn't have time to do this, whatever it was. I didn't have time to do this report because I was busy. He said, no, you have time. You have all the time in the world. You just chose to spend your time elsewhere because you felt that was more important. Boy, did that make me, that was a fucking wake up call. That made me, you know what? That he's absolutely right.
Okay, but now let's, sorry.
I was just going to say, however I carved up the time in the day, I decided to do other things. I probably procrastinated, and eventually that was my excuse. Oh, I didn't have time for that. And he was right, because I wasn't the greatest time manager. So,
and this is where I reach a crossroads in this conversation, right? Because
I love it.
You just laid out exactly the issue with Mental Health Month, right? In that, you laid out all these things as this singular you thing instead of an us, and how do we deal with these things? Hey.
Okay.
I had a point, and you dragged it out until.
No. I think I know where you're going with that. You're right. Are you saying that I shouldn't make it so much about me?
Well, and it's more about having compassion for your own mind, right? We all are having problems right now. There's a pandemic going on. There's all sorts of, and let alone the fact that just with the sheer massive information coming at you on a daily basis, how are you ever supposed to differentiate between what's, important and what's not? So my question for you was, you said that you chose to do those things, but I would ask you, who led you to believe that you were better off to choose those things?
Well, I mean, those were my decisions. I chose to do.
But there was also flashy lights, and there was all sorts of studies and work done on how to keep your brain occupied on these things versus what you're supposed to be doing. And that's the problem here, is that we want to blame ourselves for all of these issues instead of looking what the actual issue is, and that's the fact that they are using this against us.
Okay.
Right? And I think it's
I
kind of
see
a
your
bigger
point
picture
as
problem.
well, right? I mean, we're all influenced by something. We have to, have stimulus that our brains take in order to make such decisions. So you're absolutely right on that point. But I kind of disagree in the whole, shouldn't be talking about individual experience, because that's kind of what leads to the collective, right? Is having people voice what's going on. So then someone out there listening goes, I'm not alone. I feel the exact same way. I struggle in this way, right? That's what the conversation should be about, is first off, let's make it okay to talk about struggle, right? Because, well, it's a lot better than it used to be in that we do have things like Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a lot more in the open. It's not as stigmatized anymore if you're seeking therapy. We still live in a society that kind of forces us to outwardly appear perfect.
Exactly.
So we kind of seem to repress our own, a lot of our own thoughts. We behave in ways that maybe we shouldn't. We beat ourselves up because I'm doing this, but I really don't want to be doing this. And kind of going back to your specific struggle, Alex, with, distraction and lack of motivation and wanting to do others. That's very, very common. Exactly. Right. And we're seeing so much of it now. I can't tell you the amount of clients that are beating themselves up because they say, I know I should be doing this. I know. And it's the struggle of, why can't I get over whatever this barrier is?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for making the point I had lost there. You articulated that brilliantly. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I think was the thing. It's a we struggle, and that's the point. Is that this is the point of all this? Is by talking about these things, we make it easier for everyone, right? By stopping blaming yourself for falling prey to these things, we have to understand that it is happening to us, and that our brains are structurally, constructed to fall prey for these things, and we can help each other out by pointing out these constructions around us that are distractions versus what's real. And that.
Yeah. Aaron, I'm trying to read between the lines because I think I know what you're saying. It seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like what you're saying is, based on what I said earlier at the beginning, was, you do have to take accountability, right, for your own life. You have to take accountability for the decisions you make. And absolutely, we have to give ourselves agency. Yes, we do have the power to make changes. Yes, but I think what you're saying, too, though, is that we also have to acknowledge, too, the inherent weaknesses of the human psyche, and also treat, when we're trying to fix these problems, approach our own problems with care when we're talking to even ourselves. Like, be compassionate to ourselves while trying to fix these problems.
You guys that's amazing. You guys are articulating exactly, like you're pulling this stuff out of my head. Thank you very much. It's like we've been doing this for a bit, and the points I've been trying to make thank you. That was great.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Amen. Right? Like this whole thing has been like that, where I pulled this idea out of my head, and here we are, where we're actually feeling, like we're actually coming to a point here where we actually might be able to, have some impact on somebody's mental health. And, if we help you in any way, we just, that's what we're here for. And we really appreciate helping you. Right.
And I will say, a great step, something that you can do is, I don't think many of us see the doctor that often. That's one thing I'm trying to do more often. Get regular blood work done. If you can, do it once a year, because you may be startled to discover there are certain things about your diet maybe that are not so great, and you don't really see it until you get the blood work back, right? The last time I got blood work, I found out that I was vitamin B deficient. This was when I was a vegetarian, and I stopped doing that, and then things got better after, and I felt better, and I started taking vitamin D supplements and all that sort of stuff. So there are things that you can do. Get exercise, I'm not saying go crazy. You don't have to be The Rock working out 7 days a week in the gym. I'm just saying go out and get some air, go for a walk. There are little things that you can do, like even if you have to drive your car somewhere, something as simple as when you go to the mall, don't park right by the front door. Park farther away and then walk a little bit, right? All those little
small, something manageable.
Yeah, micro steps, micro improvements. Don't take the elevator to the third floor. Take the stairs. Do that regularly. Like little micro changes can make a difference.
I always say just start with something small, just for yourself, right? Something that you have complete control over, because that's another thing, is people kind of feel like they've lost control a lot of how they feel, how they behave. Even, the thoughts that are coming up, people kind of detach from it a little bit to think,
absolutely,
that these aren't mine, right? They keep coming no matter what I do. So a good way to kind of rein that back is just do one thing today for yourself, right? If it's, for me, a big one is making my bed in the morning.
Sure.
Right? And I say this a lot to clients, and it's, if that's the only thing you do for yourself today, you'll be surprised at how big of an impact that has.
Absolutely,
right? It takes you seconds in the morning. You just quickly, even if it's not a properly folded, tucked, neat corner bed, you flip the duvet up a little bit, make it look nice, and you'll be surprised that that one action will impact you going forward because you chose yourself, right? And you just kind of, if that's all you do for weeks, months, then, it doesn't matter. But typically it tends to lead towards more actions of the same type of behavior, right? Oh, that made me feel good. Right? Maybe I'll do something else for myself today. Maybe I'll make breakfast this morning instead of just, getting that coffee to go. Yeah. Right? But just being gentle about it, right? There's no forcing. There's no beating yourself up about it. If it's, we have a tendency to go all or nothing with our goals, don't we? Right?
So glad you brought that up, because that is the single biggest reason why when people make New Year's resolutions, why they always fail, that they have a high probability of failing, because people set these unrealistic, lofty goals. For 2021, I'm going to get a six-pack. And then they set a high goal, which in and of itself is not necessarily bad, but then they don't actually they don't achieve it because they're not breaking that big goal into all the little sub-goals that it takes to actually get to that big goal. Yeah. So to your point, yes, absolutely, start small. That's one of the things I found, years ago that made a huge difference in my life is if, instead of telling myself, I got to accomplish these 10 different big tasks in a week, I go, no, I'm going to do one. If I get one project done this weekend, whatever that project was, cleaning the house or taking the recycling out or cleaning out my locker, I'm going to get that one thing done. And then that makes me feel way better. And then anything else I also happen to get done, it's great. That's just icing on the cake. But I'm not going to set unrealistic expectations for myself. And I think that's the trap that we always catch ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to be doing more is what we tell ourselves, right? And for some people, that one small thing might even just be, I got out of bed today, right? Mm-hmm. Or I took a shower today, right? Like there's no one action that's too big or too small. It's just any little thing you can do to just praise yourself for it, right? We could all technically, I suppose, be doing more, but what does that even mean, right? Exactly, you need to just be there for yourself, celebrate. This is the only you that you have, the only brain, the only body that you're going to have. So just be kind with it.
Yeah, and I imagine that's something that you run into as well with people, when people are in a funk, and like you said, if it gets to that kind of dire situation where somebody doesn't even want to get out of bed in the morning, that's a big problem. Well, how do you get over that? Well, like you said, so you gotta start small. I'm gonna pull myself out of bed. I'm gonna, fold the sheets up. I'm gonna take a shower and just start small, because you gotta start somewhere, right? You gotta make those. Absolutely. You gotta make those baby steps.
Absolutely.
Well, that's as we've talked about before, about kind of worry loops and how depression actually rewires your brain to create more depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's the other thing is you need to be able to give your brain an out. Mm-hmm. Right. It's one thing to have these thoughts rotating inside your head, but where do they go to? And I think that might be part of how we can, give ourselves, again, some agency in all of this is, again, we make these choices. And so once you recognize these loops, just start making that your habit, right? As soon as you start hearing that, I don't want to get out of bed today, find a reason to get out of bed and try to use that as your impetus to, right? And just find the smallest reason, whatever.
Yeah, I've got to make a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. I got to get to the coffee maker.
Yep. And just build off of that, because from there you can find hope. And I think that's the problem here is we get in these depressive loops because we don't feel there's hope, that there's any way of changing, that there's any way of getting better. And that's a false, equivalency issue, where we have put this into our brain. And so therefore there's no way to change it, but we put it in there in the first place. So again, we have the agency to change it. It's more just giving ourselves permission to do it. And in a lot of cases, I think that's the issue, is that we've decided that this is who we are and that there's no, and so again, we just need to find that way of, deciding that there's many of us inside here and that's not who I am. That's part of me, but that is not me.
Mm-hmm. Which is an important point and a tough one to wrap your head around. Absolutely. That we are not our thoughts, right? There is a separation between your mind, your body, and your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. So what I like to say to people is a thought it's just a thought. It's just an object. It's just a burst of energy. That's all it is until you attach some form of meaning to it. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So your thoughts are not you and they don't control you. And trying to take that back, it's a long process. But a simple question that I found help for myself and for a lot of my clients as well is asking, is that true? So when something pops into your head, like, you're not good enough, right? You're stupid. You should be doing this. Is okay, let it happen. And then ask yourself, is that true? Can I know for a fact that that is absolute truth?
Right.
And you find pretty quickly the perspective starts to shift a little. Because what we're trying to do is we live in a very myopic kind of world within our own minds, right? So we're trying to pull back a little bit, right? As soon as you get a broader picture of things, the paths become a little bit more clear. So it's just a little tip to kind of how to get started. If that's all you can do, it's just start questioning. If this is harmful to you or causing you anxiety, well, is it true? And I think you'll find for almost 100% of your thoughts, you cannot say that they are unequivocally 100% the truth.
And also, I will.
And that I think is
that's a great
point.
Ahead.
Sorry, it's just about perception. Right. And again, like we made that perception so you can change that perception. I like that's exactly right. I think where the kind of issue comes here. Right. And we can get to the root of this hopefully in later episodes because, this is one of those things. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't boil any of this down to a simple black or white. And that's what our brains want to do. Right.
Yeah.
So I understand it creates a real dissonance inside the head. Back and forth, but then maybe this is true and that's true. And then there could be these two. And instead of having a, and or, right, it could be God damn it. I had the logical progression of that there is neither, both and, that's what it is. Both and or either or, right? It's not this, where it could be both things. And that's where, again, that gray area comes in, right? It doesn't have to be black and white because it could be both.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's just perspective that leads us down this.
Absolutely.
Well, it's kind of like, I like to put things in analogy terms. It's kind of like you're lost in the forest, and you're just wandering about different paths and, you get scared, and then the more scared and anxious you get, the more you just wander and lose your way. So you can continue doing that, or you can climb up to the top of a tree. You know what I mean? So it's going to take a bit more effort. But as soon as you do that, suddenly the forest becomes a little bit more manageable. You can see where you're going.
Yeah, and also I will add that, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Find people that you trust, that can help you too with whatever it is. Like, one of the things that I've long wanted to address in my life is my financial planning or lack thereof. I've always been terrible at it. And my sister's always been the kind of person who has been really good at it. And so we had a talk and she offered to help me. And that was 2 months ago. And she's made a massive change in my life. I mean, there's so much, I just felt like there was a constant weight on my shoulders. And I didn't believe it at first, but she finally convinced me and made me believe that no, you probably have more money than you think you have. You just need to organize and get shit together, right? And so she's finally done. She's helped me through that, set up my accounts. I'm like, I officially gave her the quote unquote business / life manager title because she's been immensely helpful and now I'm starting to put money away and have savings, and now I don't have to worry about my bills coming out because everything's automated and the money is getting allocated to the right account and my bills get paid on time. My credit score's gone up almost 200 points in 2 months. That's amazing. And that made me feel fucking good.
Well, and that I was going to say, like, going back to mental health month, like, just imagine how much of our mental health issues is due to money and
absolutely, it's
that
a huge
exact
part
issue
of it.
right there. Right. And how much of a fix that, like you said, a weight off of your shoulders that would be for everyone to just have that kind of control. So maybe that might be part of something, and again, this is just about awareness. The fact of the matter is that there's a real stigma with having these talks about our brains and the problems they're in. So a part of this month was just to get past that stigma so that we can talk about this. Recognize that we all have these things that we could all help each other with. And by actually talking about them, it actually makes us stronger, not weaker.
Absolutely. And also,
and that's the stigma.
That is the stigma. And also, it's okay. I think a lot of us, I don't remember which one of you said it earlier today, but, that we have such high expectations for ourselves that we can never, we always have to be right. We always have to do the right thing. And, we beat ourselves up when we do make mistakes. But I think it's important to say this, that everyone is going to have strengths in certain areas. You can't possibly be good at everything. You're either going to be more artistically inclined, or you're going to be more analytical and better with money, or maybe you're better with math. Like, whatever it is, acknowledge what your weaknesses are, and just find ways, find people to actually augment those weaknesses to help you, right? Because you can't be expected to do everything perfectly, right? And I think this is also why do so many new businesses fail? Because the business owner decided that they're going to try to do everything. They're going to try to do the bookkeeping. They're going to try to run the business, the daily stuff. They're going to try to do the marketing themselves. And then what happens? Well, one or more of those things probably will suffer because their strengths lie in one specific area. So if you know that, you got to realize that and just you got to find other people, is what I'm saying. You can't do it all.
I just want to change the wording on it a
alone.
little bit from weakness into just understanding that we're social creatures. We're here to help each other. So it's not necessarily a weakness. It's just that, you're adding your skill to somebody else's, is kind of how I'm looking at it.
Okay,
so
I like that.
You might not be as strong as this person of that, but your strength or skill is going to help augment them in a different sort of way, right? We all have something that we're contributing. So I don't think it's, necessarily weakness, because that's easy to then get down on yourself as well as, I'm not that good at this.
And that brings up a good point, is again about the perspective. We frame a lot of this as failure and weakness, when in reality, again, this is just structures of our brain that we're not using properly, right? Like the same thing with the money management thing, right? Like, if we're not aware of how to structure our thoughts and try to put those into some sort of logical progression, how are you ever supposed to get through anything, right? I mean, and so if your brain is leading you down these, bad narratives, it's difficult to be able to find that social structure that will help you get through that without the inherent weakness, failure conversation, right? And that's, again, how we have to just try to change the stigma of it. We all have these things, and we all need to be more compassionate of ourselves and those around us as to what kind of problems we may be facing at any given time.
You're weak, Alex. You're weak. Shut up, brain.
But those are conversations with brain that we need to have. And I think in a lot of cases, having a separate conversation with brain might actually be beneficial in a lot of ways, to actually just take that aside and just say, okay, brain, is this helping us? And then be able to take those pieces and decide whether you want to keep it or not, and actually, discard it. I like Bruce Lee's philosophy of of being like water, where you let an idea flow through you, and you don't have to grab hold of it. You can just let that flow right past, and it's only by you deciding whether you are going to assign agency to that going past, or whether you're not, that decides your perspective or how you're going to go through your day, right? So I think it's more a matter of understanding that, again, we all have these things flowing through our heads, and you don't have to grab hold of them. You don't, right? And just knowing that sometimes might be hopefully just part of the key to getting past the fault and the failure loop in the brain that tells you there's no use in trying to get help because you're broken.
And if you need a life raft, then reach out.
Absolutely. Because we're here.
And come and chat with us. Seriously.
And I think it's a lot of this defeatist kind of attitude that leads to a lot of these kind of problems where, again, like if you were to go and talk to someone else, they'd go, dude, I've had that exact problem. Oh my God, thank God somebody's talking about it. Right? Like it's been going for the past years, and I just, oh my God. Oh, thank goodness. Right? Like, I'm not the only one going through this. Oh,
that's
God.
it. Keep the conversation going. Yeah. When we're living in this world where we think everyone else has it better, or they're perfect, especially with social media, and it's, oh, their life is incredible. No, let's bringing these things up, no matter how silly it might seem to you or how insignificant. Absolutely. I swear to you, by bringing that up, you're going to make someone else someone else is in this boat with me, right? And that's what it's about. Let's bring it back to we're kind of in this together, right? We're all just muddling through, trying to get through this life.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, let's help each other out. Right? That's it. Yeah.
I don't get to take any of this with me. And that's been kind of my thing with this, is that like none of this stuff when I leave here goes with me. The only thing I get to take with is my relations with you.
Speak for yourself. I'm planning on taking this studio with me to the grave.
It's after the grave. That's the issue there. Hey, it's and again, like I just feel like when you get pulled out of this thing, I think it's our relationships with others that allows us to either stick around a little bit or not, right? It's you know, whether you stay in someone's mind, and again, like that could be a negative thing if you want it to be, but I prefer the positive, where we're just trying to look out for each other.
Yeah.
Why not? You know,
we got to do more of that.
You know,
and
it seems the best way.
And I feel like that. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I love doing this show with the two of you, is that this does help me. This does help me.
Well, hopefully it helps me.
Yeah. Aaron's like, that's all that matters.
Well, no, but I mean, I just go, you know, from a solipsistic view. If it changes me, then I feel that again, like because we all have these structures, why wouldn't it help someone else?
Sure.
I know that there's someone out there right now listening to this and going, "Oh my God, thank God they're talking about this," you know, and I really hope that we can help you to get past that idea of it's just you, because it's not. It's us. It always was us. The rest of this wants to convince you it's not, but it's us, and we're here to help.
Absolutely. I think we'll leave it at that. You guys brought up some good points. One takeaway I will leave with is I'm going to try to not use the term weakness when talking to myself, because I don't think that necessarily helps the situation either. No. And going back to what we said earlier about being more compassionate in general, but being more compassionate with ourselves, to not beat ourselves up, because we're not doing ourselves any favors there when we use those words. And I think that's a simple change of just different terminology, different words that we choose to use with ourselves even can be helpful.
Yeah, because it easily translates to I'm a failure.
Right.
And that's where the issue is, right? If you give yourself that loop inside your head to even consider that you're a failure, right? Your brain will happily just go, "Oh, I guess that's me." And it's also, once you create those loops, I recognize that, you know, we this is where it becomes a matter of talking to each other, is because once you've created those loops inside your head, they're hard to get out of.
Oh, yeah.
And I get that, you know, and that's where mental health week, find someone, talk to them, right? Like find a mental health professional, even if it's on not a regular basis. There's lots of non-profit, you know, places you can just have someone to talk to, you know. Find a friend, right? Like I have lots of friends, and when I have issues going on, I know who to call. You know, and we all need those people who can help us out. Just find someone, recognize that we're all, you know, just trying to help each other out, and hopefully we can all get better.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And thank you guys, you two specifically, for making me better. Thank you. This has been,
you're welcome.
Exactly what I was hoping this would be. In that, you know, again, it feels like it's helping me. So I hope we're helping you.
Great. Kristin, do you have any, I don't think you said anything about this, but is there anything that you've done over the last 12 months, any little baby steps forward to making any kind of changes? And what have you done? What kind of tools do you employ?
Well, I brought it up earlier. I started with the making my bed thing.
Oh, the making the bed thing, right.
Yeah, which has now actually evolved into an entire self-care routine, which is quite beautiful. So it's
nice. Beautiful. That's a good word to use.
Yeah. That's a good way to start a day.
I call it just my me time in the morning. Yeah. So it's like I don't sleep with my phone in my room. That goes in another room. So I kind of get up, make my bed, make my coffee, and I read a book every morning while I drink my coffee. And it's now kind of, every person is different, but for me, it's really gotten me in touch with what I need, which is actually quiet in the morning. It's time to sit and let my brain adapt for the day which this has done. And I find I'm now approaching my days with a lot more calm and
awesome.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
great.
Yeah, I think I like to start my days quiet. I do get up early because I don't. The last thing I like is having to, the last thing I want to do is have to get up and rush to work, get ready like crazy. I don't like that. So I made that change years ago, and now I just get up early. I like having slow start to my day. One of the things that and I said I want to read more. One of the things that I think I'm going to start doing instead of spending time reading social media, which doesn't really help me all that much, is I should probably spend some of that time in the morning with coffee and just read a book instead of reading my social media feed, for an hour.
I'm gonna do a plug for Flipboard here.
Okay.
Because I read articles, right? Like a lot of the neuroscience and psychology articles that I read come from Flipboard. And I just curate magazines based on different things from there. So a lot of the articles that you'll find posted when we get to that point will come from that. And so it's not necessarily even a matter of reading a book, but a matter of reading something that expands your thinking.
Your understanding.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's just a mindset of how you wake up. The first thing you do is telling your brain, telling yourself how you want to be treated that day. Right. And that's, in every aspect of that, how you treat yourself is then how you're treated by others. It's the energy you're putting out there. So whatever that means to you, first thing, how do I want my day to be today? And if you start off and it's hectic and it's straight away, you're onto your phone, you're training your brain to think that this is how you should be treated. So take a minute to step back and what do you need? Right. And again, it will be different for everyone. Just that's, what works for me and what works for you guys. But just ask yourself, what do I need? And allow yourself the time to do it, even if it's 2 minutes, right? Yeah. Just allow it to happen.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I learned some great things. This is a good discussion. I'm so glad that we had this Mental Health Awareness Month. Obviously important. I mean, we should talk about it all the time, and we do talk about it on this podcast. But I'm just saying,
it's like we built a whole podcast.
We built a whole podcast around it, and seek out help in your local community if you do need help. There's always someone around. I would encourage everybody to do that. And hopefully you found some of the things that we talked about helpful today. And if there's something that you want to talk about, please share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you think of the show. If there's a topic you want to hear us talk about, please let us know. We're also available in audio format for those of you that prefer that. We're in Apple Podcasts, Google, TuneIn and Stitcher and Spotify and Alexa. We're everywhere these days. And you can also find us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Subvert Pod. And also our website, which will be launching soon, thesubvertpodcast.com, where our friend Aaron over here is going to be publishing some amazing, thought-provoking articles to keep the conversation going there. So make sure you do subscribe to that. It's thesubvertpodcast.com/blog. You can subscribe now, and the moment that first article goes out, you will be able to get that. We'll also have a newsletter for those of you that want to keep tabs on that. So more to come on that very soon. Thank you very much for watching. That's all the time we have for this week. And remember, before you go, we're all fucked up, so let's be fucked up together. See ya.